How's everybody doing tonight? I'm here, the coach, again with the dream team. Bella, Delilah, how are you guys doing tonight?
Good, good, good.
Good, good. So we got two special guests on the show. So could we go ahead and start with the introductions here at the very top? I think we know this person very well, but go ahead and introduce yourselves for us.
Hi, I'm Emily. I am a social work student um, at KU, and I am also a member at the clubhouse. So I have a lot of experience with the mental health system.
Okay.
Hey, y'all, my name is Zach. I am a health educator at the Health Education Resource Office over at KU.
Of course, thank you. So, dream team, which one of you guys wants to ask the first question? Okay,
Me.
all right, go ahead, Delilah.
So actually, I'm glad we're talking about anxiety because I was reading this post when I was scrolling on Facebook, and they said like it was like you can get depression because you're always thinking about the past and stuck in the past, and then it said you people get anxiety because they're too focused on the future and what's to come. So I was just wondering, like, is that true, or was it false?
I mean, I think, okay, yeah, cool. That's a great question. Yeah. I mean, I think anecdotally, it could be true, right? But, speaking of like, the way that I'm thinking about what you just asked is like, thinking with the past would be like trauma, right? So not everyone experiences trauma, but most people experience trauma and trauma on different levels, right? So I think that that connection between like depression and trauma could definitely be super real. Now, one doesn't always lead to the other or vice versa. So I wouldn't say that that is like always true, right? And then the other side of that is like the future note is, I think it's just so I mean, it's super relevant to start thinking about, like, especially as high school students or college students, like thinking about your future. It's really easy to like start spiraling and having these like cycle thoughts about like, what am I going to do? Am I doing it right? Have I done it right this whole time? And that leading to anxiety. Um, so I think that there's connections there, but I wouldn't say that it's always like objectively true, if that makes sense.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
So my next question that I have for you is, what would you say triggers anxiety?
I would say like there's a million different things that can trigger anxiety. I mean, everyone has their different triggers. I think it's about like knowing what your triggers are. Like you said, sometimes thinking about the future can trigger anxiety. I know for me personally, um, crowds, lots of people triggers anxiety. Um, Not having a schedule, kind of not knowing what's coming next triggers anxiety. If I know I have to like speak in front of a lot of people, that triggers anxiety. So, just kind of figuring out what makes you anxious and knowing kind of what's coming ahead, I think is a big thing for people who have anxiety and just kind of preparing for those triggers ahead of time.
Of course, thank you, Emily. Um, do one of you have another question? Because if so, okay, Delilah.
What is anxiety?
I'm not a social worker, I'm not a clinician, I'm not a licensed therapist, so I can answer it and maybe try to in a different way. I think that there's differences between like anxiety as a symptom of something else, right? You can experience anxiety for a number of reasons of stressors, lack of coping skills. Like it can also be a symptom of some sort of other mental health thing, and also there can be like a diagnosed generalized anxiety, right? Where all of these things can be treated through like cognitive behavioral therapy and medications and stuff, but they're different for everybody. So I feel like it can be a symptom of something and it can also be like a diagnosed thing.
Okay.
I only say that because it feels like, sorry to follow up, I think a lot of people experience anxiety. I think a lot of people have anxiety. And when we feel like if we don't go to a doctor or go to a therapist and they tell us we have it, right? Then we feel like we can't use that word. And we know that doctors and therapists are not accessible for everybody, right? So it's not this thing that is, allowed to people who just have a diagnosis.
Okay.
Now, what would you say are some coping mechanisms if you do have anxiety? Like, what would you say would help somebody?
It just kind of depends for each person. I mean, um, in DBT, which is dialectical behavioral therapy, there is a list of like 250 coping skills or pleasant activity lists that you can do to help you, but it's really about what works for you. So some people like music, some people like going on walks, some people like playing with their pets, some people like coloring, some people like watching sports, some people like going and punching a punching bag. It's just really whatever kind of you're into. And as you're doing these activities, you want to see like what works for you, what calms you down, and what kind of takes your mind off of it, what is a distraction tool. Because sometimes when you're doing something, it can kind of rev you up a little bit more. Like if you're watching a movie and it's really action packed and that kind of gets you more anxious or more kind of revved up, then that's maybe not the movie to watch when you're kind of anxious already. Or if you were depressed and you were watching a really sad movie or listening to a really sad song, maybe that's not exactly the song to listen to when you're feeling that way. So you want to make sure it's something that actually helps you in the moment and not makes things worse. Um, so one thing that we have is like a playlist ahead of time that you can go to, so that these are 10 songs that I really like that I can kind of just have on lock. And when I'm feeling some sort of way, I can play these so I don't have to go searching for something, that they're already there. Or some people make sensory kits that have stuff they really like in them that kind of goes through all the senses. And so they can just pull that out at a time that they're feeling anxious or upset. And so you don't have to go looking for those things when you're kind of in that crisis or anxious mode, that it's already there. And so then you can just pull it out, and maybe it has your favorite fragrance in it, or maybe it has your favorite candy in it, or something that uses all your senses in it. So that way you don't have to go looking for those things. They're already there for you.
I was reading about anxiety and looking up questions. One that I seen was like a most common asked question is like, is anxiety like more so on one certain age group, or like it just doesn't matter? Like, is there one group of people that gets triggered from anxiety more? Does that make sense?
I definitely don't know those statistics. I am totally sure that there are groups of people, especially age ranges, that are affected more by anxiety. Emily, I don't know if you know like the normal like affected range. In general, I can say that at KU at least, we see folks that hold marginalized identities, oppressed identities, whether it be Black, Brown, Indigenous students, women, non-men, trans students. They experience rates of anxiety, depression, loneliness at way higher rates than everybody else on campus. Not due to anything that they're doing right, but because of systems that we live in.
Yeah, I mean, that's what research shows. Also, kind of the adolescence to like early adulthood range, that's also shown to be kind of that entering into um, kind of that adulthood range is a big transition period. So that brings with it a lot of anxiety. So research shows that that's um, pretty high anxiety time.
I know at the school I currently teach at, I have a lot of students who talk to me about anxiety that they go through. They say they have really bad anxiety, but they don't have enough money to go see a therapist or a counselor. We do have a school counselor, but I don't know if she has enough time to see everybody on the list. So, what is something that you recommend for them if they don't have access to resources or a lot of money? What is something that you can recommend for at least high school age students who suffer from anxiety?
Yeah. First, I want to echo exactly what you said. You know, therapy and psychologists, psychiatrists are super expensive. There's also not a lot of them, and there's also not a lot that look like and have the same identity as a lot of students that go to school. So it makes sense, unfortunately, right, that there's not a lot of access to them. Outside of like, I'm trying to think of high school students. At KU, there are funds and there are grants that can help students get access to those things. And I know there are some within Douglas County as well, rather it be like Heartland or Burt Nash. They have some folks that can go there without insurance. There's also a new community health center that's opening up that'll be attached to Burt Nash, where folks who don't have insurance can come. There'll be like a giant fund that folks can go, especially if they're in crisis. Past that, there are some apps out there that one either have cheaper therapy or two have completely free therapy, like my SSP app. And also like headquarters hotline, the suicide hotline. Headquarters, if you call the local number, you can call and talk to counselors 24/7. And if you call the 785, the local number, they can even get you to like resources that are local.
Of course, thank you so much. Yeah, I've heard of one app in particular called the Calming app. I know LeBron James has talked about that app. I know a few other celebrities who talked about it, and that's certainly I definitely use it, especially when I'm lying in my bed at night. And it's helped me, with my coping skills and my stress. But yes, thank you so much. I'm sure the students will love to use that as a resource. So Bella, Delighted, you guys don't have any other questions to ask our guests tonight?
No, I just want to say thank you guys for joining in with us.
Yes, thank you. No more questions I can think of.
Of course. Well, thank you, Zach and Emily and Dream Team. Thank you so much for hopping on tonight. I know it's been a long, crazy day, seeing Wakanda for the second time for me. I saw it on Sunday, but I had to sit through it again. But yeah, it was a good time. Thank you, Zach, again, and Emily for hopping on. Dream Team, awesome job as always. So now go get some dinner, go relax, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks,